I wanted to take this opportunity today, especially because I've been out of the pulpit for a few weeks, to say a word about what's been happening here in Tulsa around the death of Eric Harris, and what's been happening in Baltimore and North Carolina and around the country, this new movement that's afoot called Black Lives Matter. It's more than an aspiration now. It's becoming a movement around the country. And I think it's very significant, and it's something that I'd like us to take very seriously and get behind. So I want to say a word about that. This is an opportunity to take a stand. Of course, all lives matter. Absolutely all lives matter. But right now, there's a particular conversation going on across the country about whether black lives particularly matter. One of the colleagues that I was talking about this with recently said, yeah, it kind of feels like the social contract has been broken in America, has been broken around African Americans. And I said, you know, the real issue is we've never actually had a social contract with African Americans in this country. You know, from the time that we brought Africans here very violently and against their will as slaves, and then treated them like animals and violently dealt with them and demeaned them, and then all the way up through, I mean, we're talking 1960s into this, that we were continuing to lynchings and segregation, and can't even use the same drinking fountain and all these other things. It hasn't been that long. We changed the laws, but now we have the mass incarceration that is unbelievably disproportionate of African Americans, the killings that are made more poignant by the fact that we're seeing them because people happen to have video now. And it makes you wonder, you know, when a police officer throws a taser in front of someone they've just murdered to make it look like the person had stolen their taser, if we didn't have that on video, it would have gone down as probably murder. Someone would have gotten away with murder. And so we keep seeing these things over and over, and we start saying, it makes sense to me that black people in America are asking the question, do our lives matter equally with everybody else's? And I think it's really important that we, those of us who are not African Americans, stand up and say yes. The question's being asked, and the answer that we need to decide whether we're going to make is yes. And it's not, in my mind, adequate to just say, well, all lives matter, all lives matter. Yes, but there's a specific question, do black lives matter? Because we've been saying all lives matter. We said all men are created equal a long time ago, but we didn't mean it. So it's not enough to just say all lives matter. And so I would just ask you to think about that, and to think about standing with the African American families of this church, and the African American boys and girls of this church, and the parents and grandparents of African American children, including myself, as we try to make a statement and take a stand in this historic moment across this country to say that black lives matter. And if we do, it will be the first time in American history that we've actually created a social consensus around that question.